Hi there, and thanks for joining us for this Wheel and Anchor webinar featuring our upcoming Andalusian Sojourn, a trip that takes us through the vibrant cities, timeless villages, and sun drenched landscapes of southern Spain. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll guide you through the full itinerary, day by day, highlighting the cultural encounters, the historic sites, the scenic moments, and all the culinary experiences that make this trip such a rich and memorable journey. This trip starts off in Madrid, which is Spain's elegant and lively capital. We then head south into the heart of Andalusia, our first stop being Seville, a city that you might recognize in scenes from Game of Thrones, for example. This city is where Moorish architecture and rhythms of flamenco meet in the streets and courtyards. From Seville, we'll visit Jerez and Echilla before heading over to Cordoba, home of the magnificent Mezquita and one of Europe's greatest crossroads of culture. Our final stop for a whole 6 nights is Malaga on the sparkling Costa del Sol, from where we'll take day trips to the Alhambra in Granada, as well as the dramatic town of Ronda and the contrasting villages of Marbella and Mijas. If you've joined our webinars before, you're welcome to skip ahead to the itinerary and map using the markers just below this video. But if you're new to Wheel and Anchor, I encourage you to stay with me for the next few slides where I'll introduce our travel philosophy and share what makes our trips and our community of Canadian travelers so unique. Now, before we explore Andalusia together, let me share what makes Wheel and Anchor different, because we're not just another tour company. In fact, we're a community of Canadian travelers united by a shared philosophy that the most meaningful experiences happen when you go beyond the surface. Now, if you're watching this, you probably have a travel bucket list somewhere. But what I've learned in 3 decades of travel, that the real magic often lies just beyond the must-see places. It's discovering that hidden tapas bar in Cordoba's back streets, or chatting with an olive oil producer whose family has worked the same groves near Ronda for generations. That's why our Andalusian sojourn includes so much generous free time. Some of the most rewarding moments happen when you're not on a schedule, wandering through a quiet Malaga plaza or lingering over lunch in a sun-dappled Seville courtyard. We want you to follow your curiosity and let Andalusia unfold naturally. But perhaps most importantly, it's about who you're sharing these experiences with. Because there's something uniquely comforting about exploring with fellow Canadians, people who just get you, who speak your language literally and figuratively, who often become lifelong friends rather than just fellow travelers. So if you value good conversation over wine, shared laughs in surprising places, and the freedom to connect authentically or explore independently, you may have just found your travel home with us here at Wheel and Anchor. Our travel philosophy centers on two fundamental goals that we have for all of our members and that really transform how you experience the world. They are being well traveled and well connected. So let me say a couple things about being well traveled, because this isn't about checking boxes or collecting passport stamps. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I have all of my passport since I started traveling 40 years ago. But it's about cultivating what I call the curious wanderer's mindset, developing an ability to notice the beautiful details that most tourists just walk right past. In Andalusia, this means being present enough to appreciate the interplay of light and shadow on ancient architecture, or catching those unexpected moments when you hear music drifting from high up in a building that you can't quite see. Yeah, of course, we're going to experience and see those magnificent must-see sites that draw travelers from around the world. But you'll also discover those quieter treasures, the local traditions, the hidden corners, the viewpoints that take your breath away. It's about finding equal joy in both the iconic and the intimate moments, and allowing yourself to be genuinely moved by what you encounter, no matter where you go. This is how Andalusia's rich layers of culture and history begin to speak to you personally, rather than just passing by as yet another tourist. So the second thing is about being well connected. And this is where Wheel and Anchor truly differs from conventional tour operators. Because connection just isn't about your fellow travelers. It's about how travel deepens your relationship with the world. We create opportunities for you to learn traditional cooking from local families and engage with artisans preserving centuries old techniques, as well as sharing stories with locals who are as curious about Canada as you are about their hometown. Together, these elements create what we call the Wheel and Anchor transformation. You'll return home carrying more than souvenirs. You'll have newfound perspectives that enrich your daily life, and lasting friendships that continue inspiring you long after your luggage is unpacked. This is travel that changes you. I just want to say a couple more little things before we delve into the details of this trip, because I want to tell you a bit about who we are. Who are the people of Wheel and Anchor beyond our members, of course? So, first of all, my name is Gordon Dreger. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and as I mentioned before, I've been working in and around the travel industry for the better part of 35 years. I've organized trips for Canadians to just about all parts of the globe. But I couldn't pull off all the promises I've just talked about without an incredible team of people, all of whom are as dedicated to ensuring that we deliver some of the best experiences for our members as I am. The person who's most important for you is our lead trip specialist, Paula Zarnik. Her photo is just to the right of me on this photo here. And, she's the person, when you drop us a note or give us a call, will most likely be frontline to make sure that your questions get answered and to assist you in joining us if you decide to come along on this or any of our trips. So now, without further ado, let's jump in to find out more about this trip around Andalusia. Our plan today is pretty straightforward because I'm going to be your virtual guide as I take you on a little journey around Andalusia, following in the footsteps of this itinerary that I put together. We'll start with a geographic overview with a map. I always start with a map, and then I'll walk you through the highlights of each day of this adventure. Now, if you're not sure what our sojourn style of trips are, this kind of trip combines curated group activities like guided historical walks or cooking classes and so on with unstructured time to explore independently. So, take for an example, imagine a morning visiting a local artisan workshop and then having the whole afternoon free to wander the cobblestone streets, maybe doing a little shopping or relaxing at a cafe or maybe even catching a local show. As with all of our trips, we handle all of the key logistics: the accommodation, selected dining experiences, and expert led excursions, while leaving plenty of room for personal discovery. These trips suit those who want to avoid the constant packing and unpacking and rush sightseeing like you'll find on most tours. The slower rhythm fosters connections with locals and landscapes, offering a middle ground between brief tours and extended stays. Ultimately, sojourns are about savoring a destination's essence, not just checking landmarks off a list. So let's get our bearings before I dive into the day by day details. This trip, as I mentioned, takes us through southern Spain, in particular the region of Andalusia, which is the southernmost part of the country, bordered, of course, by the western Mediterranean Sea. Our trip will start in Madrid, Spain's elegant capital, where we'll get a taste of its rich history and dynamic culture. From there, we'll travel south, or specifically southwest, by high speed train to the heart of the region, Seville, or Sevilla, as they call it in Spanish. Using Seville as our base, we'll explore Jerez de la Frontera, famed for its sherry and equestrian heritage. And on our way to Cordoba, we'll stop at Esilla, a small town with deep Roman and Baroque roots. In Cordoba, we'll find one of the world's most extraordinary monuments, the Mezquita, which I'll tell you all about in just a minute. Our final base is the coastal city of Malaga on the Costa del Sol, where we'll spend almost a week. From here, we'll take day trips to Granada and the iconic Alhambra, to the dramatic town of Ronda, as well as the contrasting cities of Marbella and Millas. Our trip will conclude with a high speed rail journey back to Madrid, which will give us time to enjoy one of Europe's great cities before we head home or onward to another stop. So, enough of the preamble. Let's dive into the day by day details of our trip through Andalusia. So, our trip begins in Madrid, even though we're focused on southern Spain, but it's the most convenient place to fly to from Canada, given that there are direct flights there from both Toronto and Montreal. So, I'm going to talk about our optional pre trip for a moment. This gives you an extra couple of days to get settled in before we begin our main journey, and it's a wonderful opportunity to explore not only Madrid, but also Toledo. On this first day of our pre trip will be the chance to come together as a group for the first time, at least for those, again, coming along on the pre trip. And it'll be a chance to get to know your host and fellow travelers as we look ahead to the discoveries awaiting us. We're going to set out on a private walking tour through the heart of the city, that storied old quarter that was shaped actually by the Habsburgs. Now, you might think to yourself, the Habsburgs were Austrian, but in fact, for nearly 200 years, the city was dominated by the Spanish Habsburg dynasty, and you'll hear all about it as we wander around the plazas, palaces, and narrow streets. At the Royal Monastery of the Incarnation, we'll hear tales of royal devotion and sacred relics. In Plaza Mayor, once the site of festivals, bullfights, and even public trials, the echoes of centuries still linger beneath its arcades. And along the way, you'll notice all the small details: wrought iron balconies, tiled street signs, and lively tapas bars that speak to the city's layered soul. You'll immediately know I must be in Madrid. The afternoon and evening are yours to explore on your own. You might choose to wander through the El Retiro Park, once the Royal Gardens and now the green heart of Madrid, or maybe you'll slip into one of the city's elegant cafes and order a cup of rich Spanish hot chocolate with churros and simply watch the world go by. Today, we'll board a train for the short journey south to Toledo. And it's short because it's a very high speed train. It's one of my favorite parts about traveling around this country. This is a city that wears its layered history with sort of a kind of a quiet pride. It was once the capital of Spain and known during its golden age as the city of three cultures. It's long been a place where Christian, Muslim, and Jewish traditions intertwined. Led by our local guide, we'll weave through its labyrinth of narrow streets, past Roman foundations, Moorish gates, and Gothic spires. Along the way, we'll encounter stories of emperors and artisans, of philosophers, poets, and sword makers. Toledo has been famed for centuries for its fine Damascene metalwork and legendary blades. You can even pick up some souvenirs, but be careful where you put it in your luggage. There'll be time to pause and take it all in, perhaps from the Saint Martin Bridge with its panoramic views of the Tagus River winding below the city walls. In the afternoon, we'll head back to Madrid with plenty of free time to enjoy the capital's many charms, however you may choose. It's a perfect day to balance discovery and leisure as we continue our journey. So, this day, of course, is also the first day of our main trip. For those that are starting here in Madrid, you'll arrive in and, of course, be transferred to the hotel where you'll meet up with the rest of the group who've been touring already for a couple of days. And there's be a chance to share some tips on things to do in Madrid before we carry on with our journey. So, on our first full day, we'll have some breakfast and then check out of our hotel and make our way over to Madrid's main railway station, where we will board our sleek AVE train bound for Seville. Within just a few hours, we'll jet across a landscape of sun drenched plains and olive groves, traveling south through the heart of Andalusia. Seville will welcome us with its unmistakable energy. It's a city of orange blossomed courtyards and Moorish palaces, and of course, the pulse of flamenco. You can feel it everywhere. After we settle into our accommodations for the next 3 nights, there'll be plenty of time to get acquainted with our surroundings in the heart of the old town. Later on that afternoon, we'll have a gentle walking tour through the neighborhood, helping us get oriented while beginning to absorb Seville's unique rhythm, a city where history whispers from every tiled facade and the scent of azahar drifts through the air. In the evening, we'll gather for a welcome dinner, and I can't divulge all of our secrets, but let's say it'll be filled with a delicious fusion of Spanish culinary delights, as well as an amazing view over the rooftops of the city. Today, we'll dive more deeply into the heart of Seville, a city where history, architecture, and daily life are deeply intertwined. Our morning will begin with a guided walking tour, starting at the Real Alcazar, a palace that beautifully reflects the layered story of the region, with Moorish, Christian, and Castilian influences woven through its walls and gardens. We'll wander along tiled halls and gaze up at intricate carved ceilings. We'll stop for coffee in the palace gardens beneath citrus trees and centuries old fountains, taking a moment to savor this truly peaceful oasis. From there, we'll pass the Giralda Tower, originally a minaret, and we'll stroll along the Guadalquivir River, the artery that connected Seville to the New World during Spain's Golden Age. Crossing over into Triana, we'll explore a district long known for its ceramic workshops and shipbuilding past. Here, we'll discover a lively covered market where we'll meet local vendors and get a flavor of everyday life here. We'll finish off with a relaxed tapas lunch, this being, of course, one of the places where tapas is thought to have originated, and we'll sample some of the seasonal dishes that grace Andalusian tables. We'll expect a meal that is both delicious and deeply rooted in local tradition. Today, we'll venture to Jerez de la Frontera, otherwise known as Jerez, a town renowned for its sherry, flamenco, and equestrian heritage. After a drive of about an hour or so from Seville, we'll begin with a walking tour of the historic center. First stop will be the Alcazar, an ancient fortress with its original mosque that was turned into a chapel, and we'll stroll around narrow streets that open onto serene courtyards and elegant plazas. We'll then visit the Cathedral of Jerez, whose blend of Gothic, Baroque, and neoclassical architecture tells the story of the city's layered history. But the next part will be the true highlight because we'll visit one of Jerez's historic sherry bodegas. We'll learn about the unique Solera system, which allows them to blend vintages over time. And we'll enjoy tastings ranging from crisp fino to rich oloroso. These cellars, with their cool, dim atmosphere and rows of aging barrels, feel like a bridge between past and present. We'll then enjoy lunch at Tabanco El Pasaje, a former wine bar where sherry is still drawn from the cask. Here, accompanied by live flamenco, we'll experience the art form as it was meant to be: raw, intimate, and deeply moving. This morning, we'll leave Seville and make our way towards Cordoba, but not without a couple of very special stops along the way. You've probably never heard of it before, but our first stop after about an hour's drive will be at Esilla, a town built on Roman foundations and famous for its more than 20 Baroque church towers. In fact, it's known as the City of Towers. Esilla offers a delightful glimpse of small town Andalusian life. We'll start off at the Plaza de España and visit as well the Palacio de Benamilli, a 13th century noble residence which is now home to a municipal museum. And inside, we'll see some remarkable Roman mosaics, including the stunning Triumph of Bacchus, uncovered beneath the city back just a few years ago, in fact, in 1985. We'll also enjoy an olive oil tasting with local producers introducing us to the region's distinctive Hoy Blanca oils, some aged for complexity while others are wonderfully fresh. We'll enjoy lunch at a nearby restaurant and then head up the road for another 45 minutes or so to visit the Castle of Almodovar del Rio, an 8th century fortress perched dramatically above the river. Walking its walls and towers, you'll feel transported back in time. By late afternoon, we'll arrive in Cordoba itself, where we'll settle in for a 3 night stay and a chance to explore one of Spain's most remarkable cities at your own pace. Today is a day of deep historical discovery, and we're going to start off just outside the city. We'll begin with a visit to the Medina Azahara. This is a sprawling archaeological site that was once a dazzling Palatine city built in the 10th century by the Umayyad Caliph. At the visitor center, we'll watch a 3D reconstruction film that brings the ruined city to life before we continue with a guided exploration of the whole site on foot. Now, only about 10% has been excavated, but you'll still see the outlines of ceremonial halls, gardens, and monumental gates, remnants of what was once the most sophisticated city in Europe. In the afternoon, we head back into the historical city center and continue with a walking tour of the Jewish Quarter, a labyrinth of narrow streets and whitewashed buildings. And then the absolute highlight, a visit to the Great Mosque of Cordoba, otherwise known as the Mezquita. Now, this is one of the most breathtaking architectural spaces in the world, and also one of the most fascinating examples of a kind of a mashup of religions, because it is in fact not just a mosque, but rather a mosque that had a cathedral added on and then a mosque added on to that. You get a bit of a sense of it from this photo that I snapped when I was there last year. It's a veritable forest of red and white arches, and its layered history makes it an unforgettable experience. Our guide will explain all about how the Mezquita transformed over the ages, which is effectively a story about Cordoba's shifting cultural landscape. Today will be yours to enjoy just as you wish. It's a perfect opportunity to let Cordoba unfold at your own pace. This was once one of the largest and most culturally influential cities in all of Europe. Cordoba rewards those who wander around at their own pace. You might explore hidden courtyards or relax in a traditional Arab bath or visit some of the many artisan shops or just enjoy the rhythm of local life in the cafes and plazas. But for those who are interested, we offer an interesting optional evening excursion on this day, which is an opportunity to experience a highlight of Cordoba's equestrian heritage. Our trip will take us over to the Royal Stables, which is a remarkable site established by royal decree back in the late 1600s as part of Spain's effort to develop and preserve the noble Andalusian horse. The original stables, which are beautifully restored, they provide a fitting backdrop for this experience, one that celebrates a centuries-old connection between the city and its iconic horses. It's an amazing way to round out your time in the city, surrounded by history, tradition, and the unique spirit of Andalusia. After a leisurely breakfast on this day, we'll leave Cordoba's ancient streets behind and make our way south to Malaga, the sun kissed gateway to the Costa del Sol, and a city with a history as rich as its light. One of Europe's oldest continuously inhabited cities, Malaga has been shaped by the Phoenicians, the Romans, the Moors, and the Christians, each leaving their mark on its architecture and culture. It's undergone a tremendous transformation in the 34 years since my first visit way back in 1991. Back then, a layer of grime and grit covered the facades and the streets, and there was kind of a nefarious air to the place. I remember being told, don't hang out in Malaga, head down the coast. So you can imagine what a pleasant surprise it was when I returned to the city 33 years later. On our first afternoon there, we'll enjoy a walking tour through the historic center, where Roman ruins, Moorish fortifications, and elegant Renaissance facades stand side by side. We'll visit the Cathedral of Malaga, affectionately known as La Manquita, the one-armed lady, for its famously unfinished second tower, a symbol of the city's enduring character. And as the sun begins to dip into the Mediterranean, we'll have the evening to explore on our own, perhaps wandering through the bustling plazas, along the palm tree lined port, or into the atmospheric lanes of the old town. Whether you're drawn to its rich history or its lively tapas bars, or even the gentle rhythm of the sea, Malaga offers plenty of ways to enchant you. This morning, we will continue our exploration around Malaga and we'll get to learn about one of the city's most famous citizens. We'll start off at Alcazaba, an 11th century Moorish fortress with stunning views over the port and the sea. Its layered stonework, arches, and gardens offer a glimpse into the city's Islamic past. And from there, we'll stroll back into the heart of the city to visit the Picasso Museum. Picasso was, of course, born here, and the museum is set into a Renaissance palace just steps from the birthplace of this artist. The museum traces his entire creative journey from early sketches to later ceramic works and oils. Later on that day, we'll have another Andalusian highlight, a hands-on cooking class led by local chefs. We'll learn how to prepare some of the traditional local dishes with an emphasis on paella, as well as regional variations of sofrito and seafood from the Costa del Sol. It's a fun and flavorful way for us to deepen our connection to the local cuisine. Today we journey east to the city of Granada, cradled by the Sierra Nevada mountains and famed as the last stronghold of the Nasrid dynasty. It's home to one of Andalusia's true masterpieces, the Alhambra. Perched high up above the city, the Alhambra is more than just a palace. It's a living poem in stone, a place where art and architecture intertwine. As we explore with our local guide, we'll wander through the ethereal Nasrid palaces, where delicate stucco carvings, tranquil reflecting pools, and intricate mosaic tilework evoke the splendor of a medieval Islamic Spain. We'll climb the ancient Alcazaba, the fortress whose towers still command sweeping views of Granada and beyond, and we'll stroll through the serene Generalife Gardens, once a summer retreat for the Nasrid rulers, a masterpiece of Moorish landscape design where the sound of flowing water has echoed for centuries. After our visit, we'll descend on foot into the heart of Granada, following shaded streets lined with whitewashed walls and glimpses of the snow-capped peaks in the background. Our walk will end near Plaza Nueva, where we'll have some free time to explore, whether revisiting a favorite spot or maybe letting curiosity guide us through the city's winding lanes and hidden corners. Today we have a free day for you to shape exactly as you wish, and Malaga, with its sunny streets and rich blend of old and new, offers no shortage of ways to spend it. You might choose to head west along the coast to Pedregalejo, the city's old fishing district, where colorful boats still rest on the sand and the sardines are grilled over olive wood coals right at the water's edge. This is one of the best places to savor a leisurely lunch by the sea, surrounded by the salty air and the sounds of conversation and waves. Now, if you're in the mood for art, Malaga certainly delivers. You could visit the fascinating Russian Museum, housed in a beautifully restored tobacco factory and featuring rotating exhibitions on everything from imperial portraiture to Soviet avant garde. Or you could also wander into the striking Pompidou Center with its colorful glass cube rising from the port. It's a branch of the famous Paris Museum, and it's home to a bold collection of modern and contemporary works. Now, for something a little more intimate, there's a Museum of Glass and Crystal, which has a very unique experience. It's set in an 18th century townhouse and has an exquisite collection that spans centuries of craftsmanship. If you're lucky, the museum's owner, who's actually a passionate historian, might even personally guide you through the rooms, sharing stories of the pieces that are on display. Now, if a bit of nature calls, and if you're a bit of a walker, the nearby Balcón de Malaga Trail offers a peaceful loop through the Montes de Malaga, a forested area just outside the city. The path winds through fragrant pine groves with occasional viewpoints that open onto sweeping vistas of the coast below. So, whether your perfect day involves art, history, nature, or just lingering over a glass of Malaga wine in a quiet plaza, this is your time to enjoy the city at your own pace. Today we head inland and up to the hills to a town called Ronda, known for its striking setting above a narrow gorge that gently divides the old and new quarters of the town. With its whitewashed houses clinging to the cliffs and its simply timeless atmosphere, Ronda offers a wonderful glimpse into Andalusia's inland charm. Now, our visit's going to begin at the Plaza de Toros, one of Spain's oldest bullfight rings, and it's a place that offers some insight into the cultural traditions of the region. Now, even if the practice itself is not for everyone, the ring's history and architecture reveal much about Andalusian life and identities. Now, we're not going to see a bullfight. But afterwards, we'll leave the town behind and make our way to the Almazara La Organic, nearby olive estate where cultivation follows a more sustainable path for the past 2 decades or so. You'll stroll through groves of organically grown olive trees and learn about the estate's production methods, and of course, enjoy a tasting of their elegant oils. It's a staple, of course, of not only local cuisine, but all around the world, and it's a flavor that speaks to the land itself. I'll be curious if you can tell the difference between the organically grown olive oil or that is more commercially produced. Today, we're going to explore two distinct faces of the Costa del Sol: the hillside village of Mijas, which is lesser known to outsiders, and then the coastal town of Marbella, which you will no doubt have heard of. And each offers its own glimpse into Andalusia's varied character. In the morning, we'll head up to Mijas Pueblo, where clusters of whitewashed houses nestle against slopes above the sea. It's long been a favorite of artists and writers, and it still retains its small town feel. During our visit, we'll have a chance to explore the Contemporary Art Center, where works by Dali, Picasso, and Miro sit in dialogue with the village's centuries old walls. Afterwards, we'll have some time to wander, perhaps following the old wall path for sweeping views of the coast and browsing some of the local ceramics workshops. Or we might just settle into a little shaded terrace with a glass of Malaga wine. In the afternoon, we'll make our way down to Marbella, known, of course, for its glamorous marina and beach clubs, but it's also home to a charming and often overlooked historic center. Here, we'll stroll through the narrow Moorish lanes, visit hidden chapels and remnants of its old defensive walls, and we'll also have a chance to linger beneath the orange trees of Plaza de los Naranjos. It's a lovely opportunity to experience a more authentic side of Marbella, one with deep roots and an easygoing rhythm that invites you to slow down and take it all in. This morning, we'll wave goodbye to the Costa del Sol and board our high speed train for our return to Madrid, where the pulse of Spanish life once again surrounds us. For those who joined us on the pre trip, the city will feel familiar. For others, it's a chance to savor one final chapter in this richly layered journey. The afternoon will be able to explore the city as you wish. You might wander around the grand galleries of the Prado Museum. That's always on my list when visiting Madrid. Or you might head over to see the more modern halls of the Reina Sofia. Or you could stroll around the fountains of the Plaza de Cibeles, or lose yourself in the atmospheric lanes of the Barrio de las Letras, where literary greats once gathered. There's, of course, a tremendous cafe culture and many tapas bars that invite you to linger and enjoy the spirit of Madrid. It's a perfect setting for a leisurely afternoon. That evening, we'll come together one last time for a memorable farewell dinner, and it's a last chance for us to raise a glass with our newfound friends, share some stories from the road, and reflect on the beauty, history, and warmth of Andalusia that we've all had a chance to experience together. Just like that, our Andalusian sojourn will come to an end, and after breakfast, there might still be a little bit of time for one last Madrid moment. Of course, you're also welcome to tack on a few days, and otherwise, we'll bring you back to the airport for your journey home or perhaps onward to your next adventure. Hopefully, I've given you a bit of a glimpse of what you could expect from our sojourn around Andalusia. And if you find it appealing and if you'd like to get some more details, we certainly have plenty of that available. And the best way to start is to visit our webpage. You'll find a link in the description just below this video on YouTube, which will take you directly to the site where you'll find a summary of the trip, including prices. But more importantly, there you'll also find a link to the detailed trip itinerary. This is a full color digital brochure, as it were, and it has all of the details, the day-by-day itinerary, like I've just talked about, prices, terms and terms and conditions, and everything that you need to know to decide whether to join us on this trip. But of course, when making the decision, you may still have a few lingering questions or just wonder, is this the right thing for me? And of course, we're happy to help. The best way is to drop us a note, give an email to Paula, and she will be more than delighted to assist you with any questions and make sure that you have everything you need to make the decision whether to come along with us on this or any of our trips. Just one last word of thanks for joining me on this virtual journey covering our Andalusian sojourn. I hope it's given you a little bit of an idea of how we work and what you will expect to see on this trip. Our trips are designed to give you more than just a typical tour. They're really about experiencing a destination. That's why we design these as sojourns. Now, if you enjoy following our webinars on new trips, you might want to consider subscribing to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button. That way, every time we upload one of these new webinar videos, then you'll be alerted. So you'll be among the first to know. But otherwise, I thank you for taking the time to explore this part of the world with me. If you're not already on our newsletter list, I invite you to join our community. And every Saturday, I send out a newsletter that tells a little bit about what's going on in our community and the new trips and so on that we're doing. So in the meantime, take care and happy travels.